Welcome to Tuesday's NHL DFS puck drop. It is January 26th, and we have our biggest NHL slate of the entire year, and it's 13 games. And there is so much value. There is so many studs you want to pay up for. I think when you think about this big of a slate, that you just really have to pick your spots and run. Don't try to cover everything. I think in cash, the ownerships are going to be just crazy, insanely split up. So stick to your guns here. Don't try to eat chalk or do things like that. And hopefully that pays off. And if you are a new listener here, hit that subscribe button below. Give this video a like. If you have any questions about today's slate, throw them in the comments. If you're looking for tiers content or showdown, or a lot of people in these types of slates like to play the slates that are turbos or the late, just so they have a smaller player pool to target. We will have those core plays in the premium Discord channel for our NHL subscribers. So you can get that at fsidfs.com. But like I said, the biggest way to support us right here is just to make sure you are liking and subscribing to our channel. So we will start with our totals and odds here. I'll make my screen a little bit smaller so you can see the money line favorites. But the biggest money line favorite is once again going to be the Avalanche. They've been disappointing lately, but this spot against San Jose, whose defense has been terrible, is going to be another really hard one to avoid. And I know I feel like I'm, as some people even said in the chat, like saying the same things over and over again. But the Avalanche just continue to be in really good spots, and they have one of the best DFS players in the NHL. So the Avalanche with a 3.6 implied total. The Predators with a 3.5 implied total are also in a phenomenal matchup. The Oilers with a 3.3, the Jets with a 3.3, and they are both going to be going up against each other once again. So that should be a lot of goals in that game. The Stars with 3.3 implied total as well. Stars minus 200, Predators minus 175. Our biggest game totals down here is the Rangers and Buffalo. Then we have Edmonton, Winnipeg, Toronto, Calgary. So 6.5 totals in all these games. And like I said, there's so many spots, so many players. I think you still in cash, you go back to targeting the teams with the highest implied totals. You target the biggest money line favorites, and you also consider the best game environments. So I don't think you just ignore those types of things. Nashville at home against Chicago obviously is a great matchup. And then you're going to get, what's the other matchup here that the Stars. The Stars are going up against Detroit at home as well. So let's get into the slate. I'm not going to spend much time on the top three. I don't think there's a clear-cut favorite. McDavid is leading the league in shots on goal, and that just is not something that I ever thought I would say. But he has cranked up that shot volume. So I think you used to just say like McKinnon just had a higher floor than him. But I think if this trend continues, McDavid's shot on goal floor is definitely going to boost that floor quite a bit. So all three of those at top are definitely in play. Where I like to go here, and I think is a nice little pivot from the top, is Jack Eichel and pairing him with Taylor Hall in this phenomenal matchup with the Rangers. I think this is another spot that you could see that 3-point bonus. I like all the Sabres here, but Jack Eichel getting a $1,000 discount from somebody like McKinnon, and then you can pair him up with Taylor Hall and even use Reinhart. And I also like line 2 for them too with Eric Stahl, Middlestad, and Olofsson. So there's a lot of really good options for the Sabres that I like. Draisaitl was an absolute monster again, so 7.1 is a great tag for him. And in that same game, we saw the 6.5 game goal total for Buffalo and the Rangers. You have Zibanejad, who just has been really cold to start the year, but I do think he will return back to really good form, and you're getting a really nice discount for him at 6,600. The mid-range here, and value, I don't think I'm going to get too far away from paying up at center today. I think there's so much good value at the winger position that I don't really feel like I need to pay up there as much as I'll pay up at the center position. But Couturier at 4.7, even as the biggest dog, he's playing 20 minutes of ice time. He's going to be involved in the power play. Brent Burns is still out there. I mean, he still has a lot of really good goal assist equity. Kadri, it did get moved down to the third line, but is still in the top power play unit, still seeing, 17, 18 minutes of ice time. So I do like his spot as the biggest favorite on the slate. And then Eric Stahl, seeing that price go up, but the form is awesome. He's got double digits in his last 3 games. And I think this is a cake matchup for the Sabres. Value, Eriksson Ek chalk kind of flopped last game, but I do think that you can go back here with the Wild having a nice matchup again against the LA Kings. Nick Bonino, been on the first line as well. Somebody that I don't normally love targeting for DFS, but when you're 3.8K, you're skating 20 minutes on the top line. You have potential assist equity, and now he even had four block shots last game as well, and he's been known to be more of a defensive center, so I think that gives him some of that equity as well. Texier at 3.3 is in a nice spot as well in a game environment with we got 13 games, Florida, right? So that should be a good spot. Should be a lot of goals. And then JT Compher is on the second line in the second power play unit for Colorado. Hasn't had a great year so far this year, but I just think the line equity is enough to consider him at 2,900. All right, the winger position. Mikko Rantanen is probably my favorite target here to pair if I'm pairing him up with Nathan MacKinnon. 7,700. I think he is continuing game after game to kind of stretch himself further away from Landeskog. So I think if the prices continue to stay close, I just prefer Rantanen even at a smaller increase in price. Taylor Hall, who I mentioned with Jack Eichel, I love those two paired up together here against the Rangers. And just like Zibanejad, Panarin is also really cheap here. A guy, again, another player that normally we'd see mid 7K, even was there most of the season. He's actually playing better than Zibanejad. The only issue that you can't really pair these two together, at least on even strength. You can pair them together hoping for some power play correlation, but unless something changes here this morning, I think we're going to see those two still be split up on separate lines, which is unfortunate. But if they were to get paired up on morning skate, then I think you could definitely consider playing those two together in a nice correlated stack, maybe with somebody like Fox at D, who is really expensive today, but I think he could be used in a GPP spot. Patches, 6.7K as another home favorite here. I think is just way too cheap. I mean, we see this guy at 7.6, 7.7. He scored a goal in like basically every game except like 1 or 2, and he had a couple duds. But I think you're getting a massive discount on a really good player. Forsberg and Arvidsson, as I'll just continue to talk about Nashville, I think Arvidsson is way too cheap, and I think Forsberg is also too cheap at 6.6 in this phenomenal matchup against Detroit. Right? Detroit? No, Chicago. I keep getting Dallas and Nashville's matchups messed up, but I know they're both in good spots. Fiala, 6.1K. I'm going to still tout him and talk about him. His shot volume is still crazy. Even if he's not putting all the pucks on net, his shot attempts are still near the top in the league. Gurianov, I think is how I pronounce it right. 5,600. Anybody part of Dallas's power play unit right now, I think have like some unsustainable rate of power play goals right now. But again, just another phenomenal matchup, and you can pair him up with Pavelski or any of those other defensemen for Dallas as well. So love him at 5.6 as well. Now here, getting back to why I put Voracek on the cover, I had to do something different, right? It's a 13-game slate. Like if I just put McKinnon on the cover or McDavid or Matthews, I got to cycle through these players. So I think he is super underpriced at 4.1, and he is on the top line. They have a matchup here against the Devils. And what is also beautiful about him, and I didn't even put the other player I love here at winger too, is JVR. Van Riemsdyk is 3.8K. And these two are going to be paired together on the top line and the top power play unit. So love the correlation, love the prices, but you do have to decide because you also have Patrick Hornquist, who might be the most popular value here at 4K, and also a phenomenal matchup against Columbus. He's having a phenomenal start to the season for Florida. Then you have Mike Hoffman, 3.9, and then you can go back to who I have played the last 2 slates since he has been debuted back with Nashville is Granlund, only 3.3, had phenomenal first game where he just missed the shot on goal and block bonus, and then showed up with a goal in his last game. So The value at the winger position is awesome, but obviously there's a lot of good pay up options as well. So in a 13 game slate, you're going to get this, but I think some of this value that is offered here in the winger position, I really like because I can correlate it. And I think that there is a lot of upside. So the defensive position, now I did accidentally leave off Pietrangelo, but that was not on purpose. He, I think, is actually a better play than Theodore because of his price. But I do think Theodore is still in play. John Carlson, I thought when Ovechkin went out and Kuznetsov, I thought like, oh, Washington's just going to go in the bag and they're going to be bad for a few weeks. Well, John Carlson's almost playing 30 minutes of ice time in those last 2 games. I think it was like 28 and a half and 28 and nearly 29. So, and in doing that, he's shooting a ton, blocking it. Like you can't just skate on the ice and be that good of an offensive and defensive player and not get peripherals. So I think Carlson at 7.1 is steep, but I think he could pay off that price tag. And not maybe not pay it off in GPPs, but I think in cash. And GPPs is going to be just really hard to stack him with other players you really like Backstrom and Vrana and those guys. But I think that's a GPP strategy. Theodore and Pietrangelo are always going to be cash viable. Brent Burns had an amazing goal against the Wild. Obviously, he is a pretty big underdog here, but I do think I think the block shot bonus is definitely in play. And Colorado is honestly allowed a lot of shots on goal. So I think that even though they are the biggest underdogs, I think there's still a lot of fantasy equity on the other side for somebody like Brent Burns. Ryan Ellis, I think, is way underpriced. He's way cheaper than Roman Josi, and he's been performing DFS-wise really similarly. And it's mainly due to the shot on goals and the block shots. And I think those types of stats, and I don't know why, sorry, I listed them twice, I guess, here, but those types of stats, I think that was supposed to be Pietrangelo under the studs and Ellis on the mid-range, but you get the point that I like Ryan Ellis. I also like Erik Karlsson. Again, I think he's just going to get there. He just hasn't had those breakout games. But again, another guy, I think I put this in the Discord channel, that 3 of the top 5 averages of time on ice this year are 3 Sharks defenders. And it's Brent Burns, number 1, Karlsson, number 4 or 2 or something like that. And then Vlasic is also in the top 5. So they are going to be out there. So whether it's the best matchup or not, I think there still is equity in assist and peripherals. So I like both of them. Morrissey at 4.5K, I think we're seeing the last couple of games him to start to get some of that production. And I think, again, somebody that's just on the ice a ton with the top power play unit for Winnipeg. And he's going to correlate with that top line and is a great way to stack it up. I think this game environment is going to be awesome as well. Value at defense, there's tons that I can't get to all of it, and it will probably even change after morning skate today. Spurgeon at 4K is too cheap. Dobson on the top power play unit for the Islanders at 3,800 is a great value. Falk, his role has just boomed this year with St. Louis. Getting power play time, seeing 23 to 24 minutes of ice time, getting back to some of that Carolina Falk where he was getting the shots on goal, blocking shots, compared to last year where he was a lot of times, 2 to 3 minutes, sub 20 minute of ice time and not seeing much power play time. And you just didn't get any of that, peripherals. Alexiak at 2.5K. He was, the hero boy in a lot of the playoffs for them recently, but he is another guy that's going to see 20 minutes of ice time and always have that chance at some 3 block shot bonus and some assist equity when you're on the ice that often. Again, there's a lot of other great value. Savard, I can't even think of all the other ones on the top of my head, but if you need other values, throw that in the chat or in the comments, and I'll make sure to get you some other different value plays for defense as well. Goalie position, I just kind of goalie. It's just, you just hate it. I just don't like the position here in hockey. So you have all these guys on the left that are big favorites, and that's why I listed them. They're stud favorites, right? Khudobin, Grubauer, Rene, Varlamov, Kakkonen. Varlamov is leading the league with only 1 goal given up. He's got the highest save percentage, but he's on the road. Rene's at home against I can't keep forgetting Rene. Rene is against Chicago, who they're going to put up some shots on goal, but DeBrinket's going to be out. It's going to be just the Kane show. So I don't mind him. He should see some volume. Khudobin against Detroit. Detroit has been kind of a spoiler for other favorites this year, but huge favorite. So I mean, you look at these guys and you're like, here we got some studs. Then you go, okay, here's Merz Lincolns, who's almost in a pick'em against Florida, probably going to give up 2 or 3 goals, but I think could just see a ton of shot volume. Gibson is a bigger underdog against Arizona, but I don't think Arizona's that good personally. And I think Gibson has a lot of save equity and has some win equity here, so I don't mind him. And then you have, I don't even want to pronounce these guys' names wrong, but Vanek or Vanech, I don't know how you pronounce his name, but he is the home goalkeeper for Washington here as a slight underdog, 7.3K. He's got, I think at home, that gives him some decent equity here. I don't even want to say the Rangers goalie ever or consider them, how bad their defense is, but the odds are really close, honestly, even though I like the Buffalo side more. 7.3K is fine for whoever starts for the Rangers. And then Jonathan Quick in a matchup against the Wild. In the past, this has typically had the Wild's number, and I think he's going to see, 28 to 32 shots on goal, probably in that range. So if he does snatch a win, I think he definitely pays off that price tag. So stacks, obviously there's tons of stacks. And if there's other stacks, other teams you're looking for, like, hey, I want to stack up Nashville, how would you do it? Put that in the comments. I would say, oh, you should play Forsberg, Arvidsson with Yossi or something like that. So, or if you want to go the cheaper stacks, you go to Shane, Granlund, and Ellis. So put those questions in the chat, because I'm just putting the most obvious ones that I think are the best pay up options. And it's going to be the studs here. So you're going to see Edmonton 1, power play 1, Nathan McKinnon, Rantanen, Landeskog, Makar. I really like the way that Winnipeg's top line's playing with their power play. Connor, Wheeler, and Scheifele with Morrissey. And then obviously I can't not mention this value stack that I like, Voracek with JVR. And then if you want to add in Hayes, who is a little bit overpriced in my opinion, and Provorov, that would be like a full power play stack. But I do like just JVR and Voracek in as a 2-man stack. Another value stack I like here is Mittelstadt, Stahl, and Olofsson. That's going to be Buffalo 2, who also will see some power play time with the second unit as well. So again, 13-game slate. Don't know how else to explain that you don't get caught up like, oh, I don't have too many shares of Austin Matthews, or I don't have too many shares of Brent Burns, or okay, you're not going to be able to live like that on a 13-game slate. And if you have too much anxiety about that, then just focus on a showdown or the tiers, or go to the turbos. That is where you can find still a solid player pool using this content, and then applying it to just a smaller scaled slate. So thanks again for listening, guys. I appreciate it. Hit that like button and let's crush this 13-gamer. And if you are an FSI NHL Discord member, we are going to crush every single slate tonight. All right. See you later.